Okay, so I think my speaker is on now. So hello, today is day 5 of the live video challenge. The 30 days live video challenge. Today I'm going to be, talking about the myth, the Canadian work experience myth. Well, this is something that I know that a lot of folks who are trying to integrate economically here in Canada are going to experience. But before I start that, I think I go back to my story about my first job here in Canada, which is my job in my profession, basically as a procurement coordinator on Manitoba Housing. The first time I landed was 2010. Then I got my job 2012 April. So it was actually over 1 year period. I think about one and a half if you do the math. So well, what I noticed is that I actually spent about 3 months of active job search before I got my job in Canada in my profession. So this is regardless that the wait period for me was for about more than 1.5 years. Okay, so the reason there is being that I left Canada and then I worked a contract job in the oil and gas industry in Nigeria before I then returned. That was in February of 2012. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying this because if you look at it, it appears that it's just 3 months out of that long waiting period, that I actually was engaged in a job search. And if you if you hear the feedback, there was a posting I had where I was asking how long does it take a new immigrant to get a job in their profession here in Canada. So I got different feedback. It looks like 3 years really is a common one that people kind of can relate with. So what that means is okay if it's 3 years, okay, for the average number of years. What I can assure you is that there are people who actually got job before they landed in Canada. There are people who actually got a job within a month. There are people who got a job in their profession actually you know, within a year. But there are also people who got a job in their profession 5 years, 7 years. I've heard 7 years before. That's reality. But the point I'm trying to make here is about the time that you actually spend in active job search, which I will throw up a principle at you, a lean principle, which is called the Pareto Principle. So they call it 80/20 as well. So what I observe from a lot of folks who are immigrating to Canada who are job searching is that only just about 20% of the time that they're in the waiting period that actually leads to the result, which is basically getting a job in their profession. Regardless that they were for 3 years, maybe only they were only engaged in active job search for maybe 6 months. Whereas in my own case, it was only 3 months active job search. What I'm saying in essence is that you could get it sooner than the 3 years that people are saying is the average time. And what I would say is I've seen some example about this job search scenario where people are having issues with Canadian work experience. A lady told me about her experience. She was invited for an interview, and then she go there. They were asking her, "Do you have Canadian work experience?" And then she said no, and then that was it. The end of the interview, they were like, "Okay, if you don't have Canadian work experience, there's no point us interviewing you." Which really is devastating because I haven't been called to come for an interview. How come you're just asking me that question? So these are some of the examples of the people I've seen, or maybe some of the in my own research into these jobs and situations, some of the comments I've heard from some tips that I've heard from folks who have actually gotten a job in their profession here in Canada. I've learned that um, people, they will go to enroll to into academic programs, thinking that when they have masters or when they upgrade their academic qualification, that's what guarantees them a job. But that's not the case, because a lot of people spend a time going to school, spend 3 years, and only to realize that, well, they come back to the job market and still be struggling to get a job in their profession. So it's not that effective strategy is what I'm saying. There are also some folks who would enroll for maybe a 1 year program, industry program, to help them integrate. Um, but these programs do not have like an internship, component, which means that once they're out of that program, where they're on their own basically, and then back to square one. And then I've seen people who actually, because they have senior level roles back home, where they're coming from, they would rather go back to do those jobs and leave their families there. What happens in that situation is that they may end up not integrating into the Canadian economy for 5 years. There are some people like that. But what I would advise is this: some tips, based on the people that I've talked to, people who have done this. They've told me that the one thing that you need to do if you immigrate to Canada is you need to basically be grounded here. Forget about the job you have back home. If you know you're immigrating to Canada and you wanna get a job in your profession soon, you need to basically focus your energy on getting a job in your profession rather than what some people do. They will run two bases. They probably have one back home in Nigeria or wherever country they are based in, and then they will also have a home here in Canada. Basically, their resources are being diverted in different directions. Then also, I've learned about people who um, that's one area that you would want to look into. And then also you may want to consider an internship, an academic, or not an academic program, an industry program, which is usually maybe about 1 year, 9 months, that has an internship program, which is part of that program that guarantees, not that it guarantees you, but at least you know that you'll be assigned to do internship, in the industry, which is your foot in the door, and that helps you to be able to have the opportunity to build trust and relationship, in that industry, which is one major barrier. This Canadian work experience thing is about really the trust that we have, the industry have on the paper, the paperwork, 2 sheets of paper, your resume. It's fantastic, but if you haven't done anything here to showcase your talent, your skill set, regardless of your years of experience. I mean, the employer is actually taking a risk. It's a leap of faith for them to believe in just those resume. I think the other one that has been skipping me is a situation where people have a senior level role, back home, and then they want to come into Canada and then have the same senior role. It's not like it's not possible, but you know what? Even if you have to do an entry level role, so that your experience that you bring from your own country can be recognized here, do that. The more you continue waiting on getting that senior level role, the longer it takes for you to be able to get a job in your profession. So that's all I'm going to say today. Thanks for watching. If you're being contributing to my postings on Facebook, I appreciate that. I also welcome your comments. If you do have some comment about what I've discussed today, or if you have questions, or if you feel like you have some content you could also share with me, I'll really appreciate that. As well, if you have any idea about some content I could also share, I appreciate that. So that is it today about the Canadian work experience myth. I hope this is valuable and you have a wonderful week wherever you are located. And bye for now. Thank you.